Episode 2, Igor. Benoit was still mourning the loss of his dear Boseefus. Far and wide he summoned exotic tradesmen from across the lands in search of a new companion. From the Arabic sands he was offered a camel, but the humps were a little too much for Benoit. Next came a man from the eastern Hindu Kush. A Siberian ibex was offered. Benoit was disgusted by the very nature of the animal, whom he regarded as goat-like. And so, he declined. Over the course of the next several weeks, Benoit sought tradesmen from regions of deserts of Africa, the plains of Poland, the tribal lands of Central America, and the frigid north of Scandinavia. Yet not one would provide him with a suitable pet, for he would only take the best. One day a very charming lad from the lands of Alaska brought himself before Benoit the Great. "Who are you?" Benoit's voice echoed through the chamber. "My people call me Boosie. I have traveled far and wide from the lands of Alaska to present you a gift," the Alaskan announced. Benoit was by this point used to the routinary customs of those seeking his gratification. Boosie, desperate to make an appeal to Benoit, "World has traveled far and wide since the death of your dear Boseefus. I come before you today to offer a tribute for his loss. I have explored the deepest ravines and caves to find the creature I will present before you now." With a swift wave of the hand, Boosie stepped back, revealing a stand with scarlet silken cloth draping over it. "Behold," Boosie's voice boomed, "from the warriors of the great Celtic and Nordic peoples. I bring you Igor." Benoit leaned forward with interest as Boosie, in a majestically rehearsed action, unveiled the scarlet silk. It was a pure 10-karat gold cage, not much larger than a typical bird cage, only about 3 feet in width and 4 in height. Benoit peered forward and saw a furry mass hanging from a suspended bar within the cage. "What is this creature?" Benoit questioned his trusty squire Aiden Dishman. "I believe they called it a bat," Dishman replied. Benoit sat straight back in his chair and thought for a moment. His mind ran back to the fateful night of the feast. He could still picture Boseefus being thrown off the table, smashing into the wall before laying stiff on the ground. Benoit had chosen to forgive Dishman then. "A bat, you say? Igor the bat," Benoit exclaimed back to Boosie. He was unsure of the creature but decided it was about time to give someone a chance. After a short silence, Benoit declared, "I will take Igor." "Dishman, send Boosie off with a small batch of your best Dishman special as a gratuity gift." Aiden stepped forward, relinquishing a small vial to Boosie. Boosie received it with respect. Boosie showed his grace, and set off out of the chamber. Benoit started down upon his new pet with delight and comfort. The time of mourning was over. A feast he would throw. It would be even greater than that during the time of Boseefus. "Dishman, prepare a feast. We will toast to my Igor," Benoit exclaimed. Aiden went and gathered his team, the great and legendary Caleb, the great warrior chief, Bart, otherwise known as Simeon, and the expert thinkers Charles and La. "This feast," Aiden declared, "will be the greatest of all time." Word of the upcoming feast spread far and wide. The ambassadors Milena and Jenna were sent as witnesses to the event. The day of the feast came. Benoit stood before all upon his podium. He gave a great and powerful speech, captivating the audience and great minds of even Boosie himself. He spoke with purpose and praise for all that Dishman, in his glory, was able to accomplish towards the feast. Benoit's voice boomed, "Let us endeavor in prosperity and joy once more. I declare the period of mourning now and forever over." His words had a tremendous effect on the people, who all stood to give a rounding applause. Benoit looked around and baked in the internal glory of his people's praise before speaking again. "Igor, my new pet, Dot was brought before me in a time of need. It was a time." A sudden shredding sound cut Benoit's speech short as everyone now turned to one of the pillars on the adjacent side of the room. The painting of the great Franklin Delaware Roosevelt had a massive tear on his right cheek. The culprit was standing frozen in his tracks by his actions before all. It was Aiden. In his haste to bring out some of the Dishman special, he accidentally damaged the great painting. Benoit was furious. "Dishman, you are hereby excommunicated and exiled from these lands. Anyone who actively seeks you will also be banished. You have created enough of a mess in your time here." Benoit relentlessly continued, "You have slain Boseefus. And now you desecrate FDR. Like Jenna before you, you will live in solitude for the next 50 days. Aiden fell silent. The overwhelming situation was felt by everyone. Everyone including Igor. Igor, unbeknownst to Benoit, was a fragile creature. It was very sensitive to its environment and was frequently stressed. Benoit's displeasure with Aiden caused Igor to fall suddenly ill. It was not brought to Benoit's attention until CJ pointed it out. Benoit was horrified. He suddenly, during the middle of his scolding of Aiden, promptly got up and left the assembly. He took Igor to the vet, sending out word of the sudden and unfortunate postponement of his scheduled test of wits. Aiden's punishment was also reprieved. His close admirer, Samani, wrote in a letter, praying for Igor. D'Amatos offered his condolences to the great Benoit, who was afraid for the life of his beloved Igor. I had been there to witness the events of the day. I felt a sense of guilt for what corresponded that day. I knew of Igor's condition that day, and as his trusted advisor, I chose to stay silent. I had willingly chosen to put Benoit into another state of trepidation for Igor. Over the coming days, Igor's condition began to deteriorate. The greatest doctors worked fervently to restore him. Upon writing this, the condition of Igor remains hidden and concealed. Igor, whether perished from our world, or making a recovery, will forevermore be with us and in our hearts.